Michael Angelo Batio, and I'm at Blackthorn 51. Put your horns up.
We're inside Blackthorn 51 in Queens, New York, with Mr. Michael Angelo Batio. Not only a great guitar player, but also an inventor. I think that's a really cool aspect of your career, that you not only played the instruments, but you've actually invented new technologies for other musicians as well.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to be different like my heroes, and when you think about great guitarists that are iconic, they did things that were uniquely their own, and that's what I tried to do.
Bring something else just in the playing, right? I mean,
Yes, yeah, and something like my double guitar, the over-under, string dampeners, just things that I could bring that were different, and hopefully that people looked at and said, yeah, it's cool.
how long did it take you to master being completely ambidextrous with the guitar, playing both sides equally as perfect?
Thanks. Well, I'm left-handed, so I started off playing air guitar left-handed, like Paul McCartney would. But when I was growing up, really the amount of left-handed guitars are like one for every 10,000 right-handed. So I learned how to play right-handed because that's where the guitars were. And so when I taught myself lefty, probably took about 6 months to learn. But I always had the ability because it's my natural way to play.
And when did you decide to create the actual guitar? Because you either couldn't find something of what you were looking for, or it's just kind of you said, okay, this is how I want it?
Well, I've always liked artists that had a good show. And so, when you think of Jimi Hendrix, smashing guitars, or Peter Townsend doing the windmill, or, always in rock, there's some kind of show going on. So you have the music and the show. What I did when I was a boy, I used to study jazz guitar, even though I love metal. My heart isn't metal. But I saw this concert with a jazz saxophonist. He was blind, named Rahsaan Roland Kirk. And he ended his show playing 2 saxophones at the same time. So I'm this 11-year-old kid, and I'm watching this dude play like this. I'm like, whoa. And I said to myself then, I'd already been playing guitar 1 year. I said, I'm going to do that on guitar, but I'm not going to make it like a Jimmy Page double neck. I said, I'm lefty. I'm doing one this way and one this way. So it was from that time that I got the idea. And then I'm also an artist. If I wasn't playing guitar, I'd be drawing Spider-Man cartoons. I'm actually a really good artist. And so I would draw double guitars. I'd be in school. I was perfecting my rock star signature and drawing guitars.
How old were you when you started playing the guitar? And what was that first guitar? We gotta let them know.
Yeah, I was 10 years old when I first started playing, and I played piano by the time I was 5. My mother plays piano, so I would watch her play as a little boy, and I actually figured out one of her songs by watching. But the music I listened to wasn't piano music, it was guitar. So I started guitar at 10, and then by the time I was 11, and it was rocking.
And what was your actual first guitar?
My first guitar, you're going to laugh. It was a Japanese brand called a Taisco. It's worth about a whole $30. And I had this little Gibson amp called a Skylark amp. And my father said, you're going to play right-handed guitar because that's all they had. But he also said a funny thing to me. He said that if you are a left-handed person playing right-handed guitar, you have an advantage, which is why I can do all this. But what he really meant is if you don't play right-handed, you can't play guitar. We can't find left-handed guitar. But this picking hand was my weak hand, because it's not normal. Normally, your strong hand is the picking hand. My weak hand was the picking hand, and I'm known for how good of an alternate picker I am. I concentrated on this. This one was there, so I worked really hard on this hand.
And what else do you do technique-wise so you can share with the shredders out there to, be able to do it consistently? Because I think one of the fears a lot of guitarists have is that, carpal tunnel might one day knock on your door and then you can't play anymore. What kind of things can you tell them about that you do, behind the scenes to make sure you can keep doing it?
Well, here's one thing. If I can blow my own horn a little bit.
Of course you can.
when you think about iconic guitars, for example, Eddie Van Halen changed the way people play guitar by just watching him in his music. Yngwie did the same thing. You know, he slanted the rock guitar genre to more neoclassical. I have changed guitar in a way that people haven't, they're going to figure it out, and they're starting to realize now. I have so many famous guitarists that have studied my stuff. See, what I've changed guitar in is not that one song like Van Halen played or played Eruption. I've changed 2 generations of technique. And here's what I can say. I tour constantly, 58 countries. I have never, ever had a hand injury. And what I do is I have these big concepts, you know, like alternate picking this. I reduce them to the smallest, easiest exercise. And see, so what I've been able to do is take my technique, and when I talk about in my instructional DVDs, like Speed Kills, the really famous ones, I really play. I use economy of motion. I watch my wrist, the way, when angles, and I do crazy stuff live. But when I actually play, the technique is more like a classical guitarist. And I worry about how my wrist, what angle it is on the guitar. Like, think about old school blues players. They play like this. Walk around your house for a day like this, hello, hello, you're going to get carpal tunnel. See, I've never gotten it because here's my wrist. When I pick using this motion. That's a natural wrist motion. Nothing hurts. I never wake up with I don't really use an elbow motion. I mean, a lot of guys do this. You can't do that. I mean, that's going to hurt. So what I said in my DVDs is that every guitarist is different. We have more differences than similarities, but if you watch the John Petrucci's, if you watch the Yngwies, the Al Di Meolas, even Kerry Kings, people who have been around, there's few things that we all have in common. I focused on those tiny little things, and that's what I base my lessons on. So it's something that I take very seriously. I wanted to help the guitar community. I wanted to elevate the level of playing so that these are like classical violinists. I mean, look where we're at now, the Petrucci's. You know, but what I have said forever has stood the test of time. I stand by what I said 20 years ago, and it works. And everybody from Herman Lee to Corey from Trivium to even Joe Bonamassa has said he's watched my stuff. Petrucci, Michael Romeo, Mark Tremonti, Tom Morello, Dimebag told me he studied my stuff, because it's not about me. It's about being good at playing guitar, not about being Mikey. I never said to anybody, play like me. This is what you can do to play the best you can play.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm glad we got to talk about that, because a lot of people see musicians that are doing this for a long time and they say, hey, they got lucky, this and that. No, there's so much hard work, and the discipline is essential. You know, I mean, you have to be disciplined to be able to do this.
That's right. Well, I mean, what happens when you get older? You have to be judged by what you did when you were younger. Because if you're a singer, they'll say, well, man, he can't sing as good as he used to. Or a player, Michelangelo's slowing down now. I don't have that problem. And if you look at like a great singer like Paul Rodgers, he still sounds great. How about a guy like Tony Bennett? The dude's 88 years old and still sings great. So you can play good your whole life. I mean, I'm doing this. I'm not running around like Michael Jordan, shooting baskets. So when I play, I'm the world's angriest man, but all I'm doing is this. And so, but it's my technique that I focused on. I focus on every little detail, the way my fingers touch the frets, to touch the right part of the fret. See, a lot of people don't even know where to touch a guitar on a fret. You move it to the farthest right hand point, because it's the easiest way you don't need to apply a lot of pressure. The way I pick, the picks I use, all these little nuances I worked on, and I continue, and then I put them all in my lessons as these tiny exercises. A 2-measure exercise can change your life on guitar. That's my gift.
And when you're writing new music, because you have a new album coming out very soon,
yes.
What are some of the steps that you go in the studio and behind the scenes to make sure you can create an actual song that that lives 10 years from now and people are like, okay, that's him. You know what I'm saying? To have that signature sound still going. You know what I mean?
Yes, thank you. I have 11 solo albums out, and that's not even counting the 2 major label bands I was in. I write any which way you can write. I mean, just the song No Boundaries, it's been covered by so many other guitar players and even keyboard players. I've heard it with brass instruments. I mean, there's just tons of versions of that song. I like to write any way that I want to. And when I first came up in music, a lot of people have never heard my first band called Howlin'. We were on Atlantic Records. Tom Werman, Poison's producer, Motley Crue. He did Every Rose Has Its Thorn. He was our producer. We wrote 3.5-minute pop style rock songs, and almost like Cheap Trick, I'm from Chicago. So, and I wrote every song on this major label record with the singer. I love to write music. I've got songs in movies. One of my riffs was they used it for the theme song of the news on one of the big FM stations in Chicago. So I have a lot of music out there. But my songwriting idea is, if I'm working with a singer and we want to write a normal, quote, song format, I'll do it. But then I'll write a song like No Boundaries where it's one part, next part, third. I just don't think about it. And I think that helps me a lot. But there's a million ways to write, and I leave every way open. And what I do now is I take my phone. It'll be in the middle of the night. I'll get an idea, take my guitar, I'll record it. And then Michael Amott said, well, why are you recording it? Why don't you videotape it so you don't have to relearn it? And so I do it. I video myself playing. And my last album, Intermezzo, before this one, I had almost 250 song ideas on my phone. I'm listening to them. I can't even remember that I played them. And all of a sudden, I took the best parts and I wrote the whole album.
Every time we try to carry